There we go. Hey guys, it's been a while since we were last outside. I mean, that has more to do with the fact that it's been a while since the last time we talked about an event where I really had more stuff that I wanted to show off. Hopefully we have time this time as well. But yeah, compared to the last few events like the Blue Archive as well as the Argentine one, there was more for me to talk about and show on the venue itself than to talk and show you in terms of the physical stuff I bought. But with Doujin events, for those of you who do not know what Doujin is, bam! Here is the definition. You can look at that while I continue. But yes, in terms of Doujin stuff, typically the events have a much bigger variety, so sometimes I just want to show off some of the stuff so you guys can see better the variety of stuff you can find at this event, which might help to give you guys hopefully a more interesting perspective of what you can see at such events as well. But yeah, this video is a long time coming, I feel like. Maybe more so for me than for you guys, but initially I had planned to make the video on these two events maybe 2 or 3 months back, but a bunch of stuff happened along the way, you know. A lot of other more time-sensitive stuff came out, and since this one was something I could take my time with, I figured I could just push it back till now and just talk about it. Though that said, in the time since then and now, the event has slightly changed, and I'll go over that as well. Well, let's talk about it. So today I would like to introduce to you guys 2 of the much smaller Doujin events in Japan, but even among the small events, this is probably arguably the biggest small event in Tokyo. Biggest small. That feels like a very weird way to phrase it, but my brain can't think of anything much better. That's fine, I'll figure out something along the way, but that said, within Tokyo at least, these are considerable some of the biggest Doujin events for non-digital media, so anything excluding events which are specifically dedicated to stuff like music, videos, or games. If you take those out of the picture and just look at general Doujin works or more paperback stuff such as books or goods, then this is likely to be some of the biggest or the small sized ones. And when it comes to the small sized events, I do find them to be interesting in their own way, due to the fact that they tend to have more in terms of activities going on, and due to the fact that there being more space at the event means that people can set up more elaborate displays as well. Because one thing with Comic Cat and why some circles choose not to go there is due to the fact that the event is very big and very packed. A lot of people are constantly running around, there's very little time for them to talk to the people that come to their booths. And it also means that the kind of stuff they can set up there is a lot less extravagant due to the fact that there's a chance of it getting damaged by all the people brushing past. As well as due to the fact that the table size they get tends to be smaller. But not with these events though. Today we're talking about Puniket as well as Heroine time. For some of you guys out there who are into a bit more of the sus stuff, you might find some books tagged under these events here and there. Typically they don't come out in very huge numbers compared to events such as Comic One or Comic Cat. Contrary to the impression you might get looking at stuff online, the event isn't actually that NSFW oriented. If anything, there's a lot more all ages content being produced, and NSFW stuff makes up at most 30% of the event space every other time that I've gone to it. So it doesn't occupy a huge amount. Sometimes it can vary and be even less depending on what series are involved. So yeah, there's a much bigger variety in terms of the goods you can find as well as types of content that you might see there. As for the space itself, it's nothing too insanely elaborate. It's the same space that I talked about in the past with the Blue Archive only events. Though that said, both of them do have very bizarre names in their own right, because like Puniket, Puni just means something that is soft, and it's just meant to celebrate all things Puni, which is very weird to say out loud, even though the people there used to always say it, even now, with quite a lot of vindication, like, yes, this is what the event is about, Puni! And I'm like, I don't get it. But yeah, you know, in anime they always talk about girls being soft to the touch. Not like me, I'm very rock hard. No, not in that way, okay? That didn't come out right in more ways than one. Typically it just means like anime works and the heroines within them, which is where the other event with the very unfortunate acronym got its name, Heroine time, because it's meant to celebrate all the different heroines within all the different works, be they super magical or just normal people doing normal people bochi things. As for where the events are held, they're all typically held in the same location, which is somewhere in Yokohama. Not the best place as a person living within Tokyo itself, but the location actually looks pretty fantastic. Like the surrounding area looks like what you would expect a picturesque image of the more residential areas within Japan to look like. And the event hall itself, it looks pretty normal to me at least. I feel like for a convention center, most places look like this as well. So there isn't too much to write home about with the convention center itself. Sometimes they use the hall on the second floor of the building as well for the cosplay areas, but more often than not, it's only just that one floor that's being used, since that is where most of these circles, which are the Doujin groups, would end up setting up for the event. As you can see, there is a lot more space between the tables compared to something like Comiket, for example. There are a lot fewer people, but not too few that it makes the event feel like no one goes for it. It's mostly just enough for you to really walk around and interact with the Doujin circles who are there. So if you're the kind that likes to go down to such events, look at the stuff, and then talk to the people who created it, these events are actually a bit more suited for such things due to the fact that the event has more space in general, so people can set up more interesting booths that can start a conversation, and there's also more time to talk without getting stampeded to death by the human wave, which could potentially have pushed you around without you even having your feet to be on the ground as within Comiket. But yeah, what makes this event also easy for people to go to is also the fact that it tends to zoom in on a specific few series. Like if you look at Super Heroine time, for example, you have this list of multiple series here on the website as well as on the poster that's behind me. Because unlike Comiket, where they expect you can just go there and find whatever you want because of how massive it is, these events don't really have that luxury since the space they have is much smaller, and so they tend to be a bit more focused. But this, in a way, is a good thing, since it means that if you know that you like the few series that are participating in the event, you can easily go down there and find stuff that might be interesting to you. Just a little bit harder to go there and find random stuff, but at the same time, depending on the participating series, you can still find many things that you wouldn't expect to find as well. But yeah, just as interesting as the way that the Doujin sales segment of the event is held is the after party, in my opinion, where after 3:30 they basically just pack up all of the tables and they just hold a very small activity-ish thing where they just do a bunch of very random but semi-fixed stuff, where they just have a bunch of activities for everyone to participate and play around in with prizes as well. And these typically are split into multiple parts, the first of which is the Shikishi giveaway. So typically, as you can see from the boards over here, these sign frames will tend to line the walls of these events. These are typically donated by either artists who have a booth at the event or artists who are just randomly participating as well. They largely leave it up to free entry to put it up yourself. So what you would do is basically just go there, you would submit something that you either drew on the spot or you brought with you. This would be then put up on display for everyone to see, and at the end of the event, these framed signatures or artworks are given away. And the way it's done is interesting, in my opinion. I mean, it's a bit archaic because of the fact that basically they're using a projector, which for those of you who do not know what a projector is, I'm glad you didn't have to live through the last century. It's this machine that you basically use to project whatever your camera is shining on the screen. And so basically, like if you have it pointed at the board, you can use it to then project the zoomed up image of the thing on the screen. That said, I do find this segment of the event to be quite interesting, in part due to the fact that it actually gives you an opportunity to see the works of many different artists outside of the typical scope that you might look at. Due to the fact that there are many participating series, some of this might actually come from series that you've never followed in the past. And sometimes these artists don't even do works that are for that specific series, which actually might give you a very interesting perspective of the type of works that the artist does in general. Like for example, this one that I won earlier this year is it's still way better than anything I could ever hope to do. And it does look like a very wholesome art of Bochi that someone tried their best to draw. So I do keep this around as a memorabilia as well because of the fact that it was just super wholesome the way it was done. That's it, I'll put up the artist's name here as well in case you're interested who they are, since I do have the tag here that tells me who they are. Then I also have another one which I won in Puniket of June last year, which yeah, I can't actually see it, I'm just pretending I could look at it, but yeah, not exactly the most punny, you know, like the punny, as I mentioned before, it's meant to refer to something that is soft, but this thing might actually be harder than I am on a normal basis, so that came out wrong as well. But yeah, this thing will be pretty hard in a different way. If you were wondering, the artist typically does work that looks like this. I think this piece of art that I got actually is something that he drew specifically to give away at the event, and I have to say, like, comparing this to the work that he usually does, the difference is so stark that I'm actually glad that I got this, because it actually serves as a very interesting display of like the breadth that he has in his artwork as well. That and no, that's not a Gundam in case you're wondering. This is a Uchu Taite Goto Sigma. It's a name that sounds a little more unfortunate in this day and age, but it basically means the Space Emperor God Sigma. It's a very old mecha series within Japan as well. I think maybe from the 70s to 90s, somewhere around there. I need to double check that. It's like stuff like this serves as a very interesting memory of like the events as well. Especially since each and every single one, depending on what turned up at the event and what you managed to get, it might actually serve as a reminder of all the different stuff you saw there as well. Like during the one where I got the God Sigma mecha one, I recall like there were 3 or so Uma Musume circles that ended up drawing Tom Cruise half naked or something because of some collab with Top Gun, which was yeah, I don't have an image of it now, but just thank God I didn't get that. I'm very fine with this in comparison to that. But yeah, after this they have the second half of the after party, which is the Janken Taikai, or the rock paper scissors tournament, where they basically give away a whole bunch of random stuff donated to them for the event in a form of a rock paper scissors tournament. I think during the Blue Archive only once I did talk about this a little bit as well, but basically something like that, but more variety in the stuff that's given out. Sometimes you see stuff that can be as interesting as a very retro, like 90s visual novel, but it's the limited package version of it. So if you're into like collecting retro games, you might find some very interesting stuff there. You might get a random tapestry for some anime series. Sometimes the circles that participate there also donate the posters they put up that you see in the video, where they say which circle this is and what, as well as displaying a little bit of the art of the circle. Sometimes they give away that as well. Sometimes they might even donate like random doujins that aren't even like from someone participating in the event, or sometimes you can just get very weird shit like this little gacha pawn thing, because like I lost out to everyone else and like everyone took their stuff first and I was the last one to get it, so I was the last one in and there wasn't much left, and so I ended up with in case you were wondering, no, this thing does not work. And in case you were wondering, no, I'm not that small. Oh! It does actually turn on, so this thing's actually really loud though. I don't think I can like do the bit where I just put this down there and continue the video. So we'll keep this on the back burner for now. Maybe I should just like string it to my bag or something and bring it to work, right? I'm sure no one is gonna know what this is. Surely. No, I shouldn't. Even the poster of the event itself, as you can see from the one behind me. This one I won at the Super Heroine time that happened on the 2nd of April this year. So yeah, it wasn't the big prank day. Didn't get pranked like the time I did get this. I think this was in like the later half of last year, where I didn't actually get the Shikishi at all. This was like one of the few things I got out of it, so hey, sometimes you win some, you lose some, right? The funny story with this specific poster behind me as well is the fact that I initially didn't want to get this one, but I chose to throw for it intentionally. So what happened was that initially I was thinking of getting the Blue Archive one, because that Blue Archive is somewhere on the upper part of this poster. And there were 3 of us there. One guy said he was gonna intentionally throw, and throw rock only, basically saying that we could like decide what the fate of all of this would be. And for some reason, a part of me was like, you know what? maybe I don't want to blow a kite. Like, this feels like it'll be a more cool memorabilia since it shows the event in its entirety. So I decided that, like, you know what, since he was willing to throw for us, I'll try and see if I could win and throw it to him instead. And it turns out that between me and the other guy, because of the fact that I threw to lose and he threw to win, obviously, the whole thing ended up in a draw, and so we had to go multiple rounds, and the guy who initially wanted to throw had no choice but to actually participate. And the three of us just sat there playing until the other guy who wanted to win got eliminated, and it was just me and the guy who tried to throw. And he intentionally threw rock again, and I threw to let him win, and then I went to get this one. And then I had to fight again, and I won it again because I'm an epic gamer that way. Certified as well by me, but you know, there's a lot of stuff that happened at the event, and I do quite enjoy it as a result. I would say that if you have a chance, do go down and give it a look-see, because there is a lot of variety, both in terms of the stuff you can see there as well as stuff you can do in the after party. Though having to wait until 3:30 can be very painful. I would say if you're gonna go for the event, if you don't have a very specific circle you're planning to go down for, you could go down maybe at like 11, which is when they open, browse till like 12:30 and just leave and come back at 3:30 instead, since if you're gonna be at Yokohama and you're a tourist, there should be a lot to see anyways. Or when most people still have their stuff up. 2:30 there might be more places out of stock, so you might want to plan accordingly depending on how much you want to browse while you're there. But yes, in terms of the stuff that you can find there, let's talk a bit about that as well, right? This one is for a series that might be quite old at this point. I'm not sure how many of you guys would actually know this one. Makes me feel very old to say this. Like, I still remember that this series was actually like, it just released around the time that I was still relatively young and unemployed. And then now I'm like talking about it and more than 10 years have passed. It's like, but yes, for those of you who know the series, for those of you who don't, it's fine. It's basically Nanoha. You can go Google it if you want. One of the pioneers of the second or third generation of magical girls. I feel like maybe we can do a video one day talking about the different generations of how magical girls are depicted, because it did change a lot over the years, especially nowadays where little girls actually do get horrifically murdered in them. But this was just before that era, and apparently a new artist actually got into the scene. He sells a bunch, and he also has one at a giveaway, and this is the one that he sold, so I just purchased it since I do like his art and wanted to support him. Apparently someone wrote a very bizarre like light novel, so you can see that it's a light novel, yes, about apparently Bochi and Kitan from that one series with the weird girl and the energetic girl, you know the one. I mean, I'm sure most people know it, right? Bochi the Rock at this point. Except this person's son. What was that? Their name card was in there apparently with the Toho girl on it. Yeah, I'm surprised that the name card was just in there. This never fell out till now. But yes, where was I? Oh yeah, the book is about Bochi and Kitan being in a abusive, weird relationship thing. I don't know what drove them to write this. It was very bizarre of a read. The name of the book is Fool. Very simple, you know, it doesn't have the super long like light novel title like Me and My Girlfriend Got Reborn in Another World Where I Became an Unemployed Alcoholic Drunk and Abused Her. Ooh, this one was a tough one. So, okay, there was a circle with a very interesting paper, Bochi, Nijika, as well as the one drunk person at the front of it. You can see it here. And it actually looked really cool, and so I decided to ask him more about it. And apparently he was selling the sets for all three of them, so I decided to buy it, and well... yeah, this is gonna be a little tough to set up, isn't it? I'll see if I can do something about it, right? Like, maybe if I were to blow hard enough for it, like... yes, that's my dinner. Clips. Tongs, whatever you call this thing. Tweezers, right, that's what it's called. This is turning into an arts and crafts channel, isn't it? Okay, let's do this. Yeah, I would say it's a little rough around the edges, especially the the hoodie hair. But yeah, aside from the hoodie hair, which I can't really control at this point, I would say the rest is still pretty fine, to be honest. Well, I guess it's back to work. Huh. And the other one? There we go. Yeah, suffice to say I didn't do the best job with this. The front of her hair looks a little messed up. You know, we did the best that we could, and when you look at it at like this plain, flat level, it kind of doesn't look as bad. It's just that when you go up a little and you kind of realize that like the Bochimpo's hair is a little off and her hoodie hair looks even worse. Just ignore the white stuff up there that I don't even remember how that happened, but that definitely isn't what you think it is. But yeah, as you can see, they don't look too bad. Yeah, her hair is even more obvious that it's kind of messed up from the side. I did mess it up quite a bit. It wasn't meant to be like that. Like, if you look at the original image of it, of what it looked like when the other person, the person who sold it, made it, it's actually a lot better looking. But yeah, let's just say that like physical artwork and the like isn't exactly my forte, so considering the fact that the instruction manual wasn't all that detailed, I would say that this probably would have been the best I could have done. I mean, really, this thing makes me wish we had an IKEA instruction manual instead. That's it. That's all from me for today. I hope this video was entertaining. Like, this kind of videos I do enjoy making as well. The only issue is that I'm not too sure how entertaining they end up being since I'm just showing stuff as well. If you happen to enjoy this style of video, do subscribe. I do this style of videos once every month or two. Depends on how many videos I can make during the period as well as how many events are happening during that time. Also, if you're interested in the video game industry in Japan, as someone who works in it, I do talk about it sometimes, and also talk a lot about historically horrible games in Japan, so if you're interested in any of those. Also, consider joining the Discord if you want to see more of what I'm doing in the future. We do sometimes just chat, chill, and shitpost there, and my schedule for the video uploads as well as streams are there as much as I can put, because sometimes I don't know if I can make something in time, or sometimes a new video idea strikes me midway and I just make something, but what you see there typically gets made as well, so you get to see the base structure of upload schedules for what I'm planning to do in the future as well. Thank you to Snorlaxo once again for helping to set that up, and thank you to Lava Looters for the support for the channel. That said, I'm heading off now, so until next time, take care, and I just knocked it away. Bye-bye.